On Tuesday, First Nations leaders gathered at a news conference in Winnipeg to announce next month's claim period for the $23.3 billion First Nations CFS and Jordan's Principal settlement. But the settlement wasn't the only thing on Minegojebi Anishinaabe Chief's Derek Nepinak's mind. He turned to another issue.
We also have to turn our mind to long-term reform of the First Nations CFS system. I'm speaking specifically to a final settlement agreement that was offered for the chiefs to consider in October of 2024. I still believe today, sitting here, that it is a monumental failure on the part of us as chiefs to push the final settlement agreement across the finish line and to have the rollout of that final settlement agreement happening right now in real time.
The Final Settlement Agreement, or FSA, was a national deal between Canada and First Nations that would have provided $47.8 billion over 10 years for national First Nations CFS reform. At an AFN Special Chiefs Assembly in October, the majority of chiefs in Assembly voted down a resolution to accept the FSA. But on Tuesday, Nepinak proposed an alternative route.
I believe that communities that voted in favor of the settlement agreement, including our community, the Minegojebi Anishinaabe, should have an opt-in provision or an opt-in opportunity into the final settlement agreement.
He also alleged that outside actors influenced the October vote.
I believe that the voting period was infiltrated, let's say, by lobby groups and organizations that support the status quo of top-down child and family services that are run by provincial mandates and even funded by provincial mandates to usurp the conversation and to ensure that the settlement agreement failed.
In a Tuesday interview with APTN, Indigenous Services Canada Minister Patty Haiju said the rejection of the $47.8 billion deal was deeply disappointing to a lot of people. ISK is currently working with the Chiefs of Ontario and Anishinaabe Oski Nation on long-term CFS reform for First Nations in Ontario. When asked about other nations opting in, she said,
as of right now, the offer that the government has made, is the offer that is on stand, if you will. But the Chiefs of Ontario and Anishinaabe Oski Nation have been working with the federal government to arrive at an agreement for First Nations in Ontario.
A Wednesday email sent to APTN from Haiju's office said, quote, "There are no programs that ISK is aware of that are opt-in, opt-out. CFS is a provincial and territorial responsibility. Canada has agreements with provinces and territories to provide funding through CFS. The way that CFS is currently designed is province by province and territory by territory," unquote. APTN also reached out to AFN National Chief Cindy Woodhouse Nepinak's office, asking if she'd consider Nepinak's request to create a mechanism for communities to opt in to the final settlement agreement. They did not provide a response by airtime. Sierra Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.